Hi, it's Raphael Freeman, and it's been a little while since I've done a video, but just in the past week or two there have been a couple of questions regarding hyphenation and justification settings, and I thought it might be useful just to show some techniques that I've been using to set text. Now this is a book that's actually much more advanced in terms of where I'm up to. I'm up to draft 2 already, but this book here definitely not finished. This is sort of like I just took a snapshot of where I was actually, I guess, a couple of weeks ago on this particular book. So first and foremost, it doesn't really matter where I am in the book, and this book, I'll say, there's a lot more work to be done on it. But let's first look at hyphenation justification settings. So if you notice, you'll see some light yellow text here, or rather light yellow form highlighting. And this, if you go into preferences and you go into composition, this is what's called H&J violations. I'll turn that off now. See, it disappears. Now, turning this on and on is very annoying. You have to do Control K, and then you have to scroll down and click it on. So actually, I got a little script to switch that on and off. And I am a great believer in the Elgato Stream Deck. So I'm just on their website now, and I've got a number of these. It's just that these videos I'm not really set up to show you my desk. So this is the basic Elgato Stream Deck. This is the 15 key one, and I have actually 3 of these. And they also have a larger one. They have the XL, which has got 32 buttons, and I've got one of these. And the most fun one, and what I'm going to be using quite a bit now, is the XL. The XL is very interesting. It's only got 8 buttons, but it's got these 4 dials. I'm trying to see if, you can see these 4 dials. And then this is an LCD screen, which can be used to scroll between different sets of buttons. And if you tap on the screen, it can do something. So I just want to see there's so here they're using the dial, and let's see what else they've got showing. Yeah, so they've got the dial here. So these are the dials, and I'm going to be using this. And what's important to understand about the Stream Deck and the way that it works is that you can have different. I'm just sort of stuck on the Stream Deck. I'll just keep on the Stream Deck Plus. These 8 buttons, I can slide to the next, I guess, page of buttons. So here that will give you 8. Another page gives you another 8, another 8, another 8. Now, if you're dealing with the 32 key Stream Deck, which is what I use, so I use as well, right? You could also make lots of pages, but each set of pages is now 32 buttons. So that's what I've got. So I've got 5 Stream Decks on my desk, believe it or not. So anyway, let's go back to here. We're going to see how that becomes interesting. So I have over the years, the font that I tend to do most of my work in is Arno Pro. And if I now go into the paragraph settings, and I go into the hyphenation, well, let's go start with the justification settings. So these are the justification settings that I use for Arno Pro. Now, as people have mentioned obviously on the forum, it obviously depends on your font, but Arno Pro is an Adobe font, and I tend to use mainly Adobe font, and it kind of works. So I keep my word spacing at 100%. That works for Arno. And I'm willing to go down to 80, I'm willing to go up to 133. Letter spacing, that's the spacing in between each character. I don't like to go more than 4%. Glyph scaling, this is the one that people can be the most emotive about. I used to only go 98% to 102, but the past 10, 20 years I've been going 97, and it works. Now it doesn't work by itself, it works in a combination of lots of different things. And what glyph scaling is doing is saying that on a particular line, if necessary, it will squish the letters up. Imagine the letters being on a rubber or an elastic band, and you pull, each letter is being sort of glued to that rubber band, and you pull the rubber band outwards. That's kind of what's happening with 133. Actually, that's not true. That's probably better with letter spacing. With glyph scaling, the actual letters being stretched as well. So that's actually a bad analogy. So forgive me. That's more like the here. But what's with H&Js, of course, that stands for hyphenation and justification. So hyphenation here. These are the hyphenation settings that I use as a starting point. So I don't like to have more than 2 hyphens in a row, or my clients get very upset. Don't hyphenate word more than 6 letters. Don't hyphenate across a column. I'd really prefer to say don't hyphenate across a right-hand page, the bottom of a right-hand page, but I don't have that option. Don't hyphenate capitalized words. Now, in my case, a lot of books that I do, there are often a lot of capitalized words. Don't hyphenate a last word. Well, if the last word is really long, then it doesn't bother me so much. And try to have fewer hyphens as opposed to better spacing. That's my starting point. And as you can see, if I go through the text, I've got here, let's start here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, 5 pages where it's fine, those settings work. But if you look here, you see there's a light yellow line, okay, light yellow highlighting, my apologies. And that light yellow highlighting lets me know that I have broken with those settings by not too much because it's light yellow. It'll be interesting to see if I have any bright yellow lines. So for example here, you might not be able to see this on your screens, but that yellow is a little darker, and that makes sense. Actually, if you look at the top here, this running head is quite dark because of course it doesn't fit, but we're ignoring running heads here. And the reason why here it's bad is because we've got quite a narrow, we've got the measure here is very small. So let's just look at the measure for a moment. So we see the measure is 54 characters. Obviously we have to try a few lines to see, and that's why we're not managing. So your measure needs to really be, ideally, around 66 characters. So here it's 67, here it's 64, and here it's 70. That's around, you have to take an average really, that's the best thing to do. But in this particular book, the client wants to have the indent both on the left and on the right of the extracts or the quotes, different names for this. But we're okay, we don't have any yellow here, so even though here we have the measure is 64, it's a little bit under 60, but it's okay, 63, so we haven't gone varied. So my methodology is to do as follows, is again, use those hyphenation settings that I showed you, and I'll just bring them up again in case you weren't paying attention, okay. By the way, this particular box is where we're going to play with. And I want you to pay particular attention to better spacing and fewer hyphens. You'll see what I'm going to do with that. And then these justification settings do work very nicely. So let's now go to page 30. I don't know, it's just a random page. And how am I going to handle this particular page? So what I've got, and it's a bit difficult to see, but what I've done is as follows. So this is the user interface to the Stream Deck. So these purple things are the dials. This is the LCD thing, and these are the buttons, and these are the custom buttons that I've set up. And what I do is if you press these buttons, you can get each of these. When I press the dial, sorry, that was not clear. When I press the dial, I can have the dial doing different things. And here at the bottom, you can see there's different pages. I can slide across here on the physical box to see different pages that I've got. So I have different pages depending on what kind of work that I'm doing here. Okay, and that's got nothing to do with InDesign, right? So if I am doing my if I'm working on the hyphen thing, I've created this thing called hyphen. And what this hyphen thing it does is that when I rotate this dial, going now back into InDesign and going back into hyphenation, that's what's going to change this thing over here. So if I rotate the dial to the right, then this will rotate to the right. Okay, and I shouldn't have actually got rid of that. Sorry, I did that prematurely. And then here I have a button called hyphen caps, and that will just break capitalized words. Hyphen all will just do a whole bunch of different settings, including changing these if like it's not really working. And as it happens, what I've got now, and I'm showing you the UI for the Stream Deck Plus. If I go to the Stream Deck XL, I actually have hyphen columns, hyphen last word, and these are little scripts that I've got that basically toggle the different things here. So hyphen all does lots of things. It doesn't just switch everything on, but actually changes some of these settings. But hyphen last word, there's hyphen last word, that's this, that will toggle this setting. Hyphen across column will toggle this thing. And it's something that I have just created. So what I will do is I will say, okay, looking at the text here, the first thing I will do is I will take my Stream Deck dial and I will dial it to the right. And you see, dialing it to the right has made some changes here, but it didn't fix the issue, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on that LCD screen to reset it. You see, if I do it by lot, tapping on it will reset it. It's supposed to, does it? Yes, it did do it. And I'm going to say, well, let's see if I hyphen caps what happened. And that didn't really help. So I'm going to say, okay, no, just do hyphen all. Oh. So hyphen all, what did that do when I did hyphen all? I actually changed the hyphenation settings to be 5, 2, 3, better spacing. So it didn't just change, turn this on, turn this on, turn this on, and put this all the way to here, but it also made it 5, 2, and 3. Now I've got to actually look and see, well, yeah, they got rid of the yellow, but does that, and by the way, I have a little script that turns the yellow on and off, but is that really a lot better than I had before, right? And in my view it does, because if I turn off the yellow, I'm just actually not turning it off, I'm just going into preview mode, you'll see there's quite a bit of space in between these words, and these words are actually, you can see it's done a full 103 stretch. Right, remember it's 103%, so I'll just, I'll bring that up again to remind you. One moment, into justification. So it's really doing a full glyph scaling here at 133, it's doing word space, it's really pushing it, and it's actually going past the 133, which is why indeed we see the yellow. So I am kind of tempted to do that full hyphenal, so that, let's just do that on, off. You see how the word provides has been stretched quite a bit. That yellow is showing you how much it's going beyond. Now a lot of people are very allergic to hyphens, and I've come across this in time. I sometimes get these editors that go, oh, it's got hyphens, people can't handle hyphens. Well, so I hope people can. I mean, I hope people have learned that what a hyphen is and they can actually handle it. But the question is in terms of readability, and my view is, and this is my personal opinion, is that if you're reading this line more quickly than you're reading this line, because this line you're slowing down because the words are spread out and the space in between the characters is spread out, then to me it's akin to stop and go traffic. And I don't think that is a very smooth experience for the client. And therefore, putting in those hyphens creates a much smoother experience, much smoother reading experience for the reader. And I think that is better. So if that means you've got some extra hyphens in there, then well, that doesn't, in my view, that doesn't really matter. Now, if 2 hyphens is something that, if 3 hyphens is too much, I mean, I don't go quite to this level. You can always, well, actually, so at the moment, that's kind of it. Oh, because hyphen limit, so 2 hyphens in a row. Sorry, yes. So for me, that's actually fine. We can decrease the number of hyphens by doing this, and I don't need to do that. I can actually, notice it's 2 away. So I can actually use the dial, which is what I use, to see if we can decrease the number of hyphens. And actually, if this is kind of interesting, so if I now go into my hyphen, I wish I knew the shortcut was, Alt-Shift-H, okay? So see, now it's just gone to here, fewer hyphens. So I just, by turning the dial, by dialing it down, I've managed to go from, so hyphen all gave me 3 hyphens, establishes, there's 4 hyphens. So now I can just tweak it a little bit using the Stream Deck, and now I just have 1 hyphen and no yellow. So if I actually do that a little bit more, okay, so here first I'm rotating my Stream Deck to the right. Okay, so let's do, okay, so I've put better spacing, didn't help. So now I can do hyphen all, and then that maybe we can undo some hyphenation. Okay, let's have a look what we've did. So we did fewer hyphens. Okay, so we've got 1 hyphen, and I think that's a lot better. Here's going to be a problem because we've got this word language. It's a narrow column. So again, I start with turning it to there. That's not really helping. I'm going to do hyphen last word, and then I'm going to actually take off. Yeah, so I have to hyphen the last word, and that doesn't bother me because this is quite long. My rule is, so this is a concept. What is this called? What is this when you have this at the end of a paragraph? So there's a bit of confusion, I would say, on the internet in terms of the terminology that's used. And the confusion is this word orphan, widows and orphans. Now, you're not going to see any examples of orphans in this work because I've set the paragraph styles not to allow it, but an orphan is when you have the, I mean, again, this is absolutely nowhere near finished. This is a very early version of it. So an orphan is actually, this could be, no, that's not an orphan. Well, of course, you're not going to see an orphan. I've just mentioned it, but let's say, right? So an orphan is when you have 1 line at the bottom here. Here's an orphan. Obviously, you won't have it because I've turned it off in this particular scenario here. Okay, so this is an orphan, right? That's called an orphan when you have 1 line. And I don't have a problem with orphans, although I don't like to have orphans in this scenario, because it doesn't look so good. A widow is when you have the last line of a paragraph on the top of a page, okay? So I've set this up. So for example, this is here 2 lines, but let's pretend I allowed widows, which I never would, of course. So that's a widow, right? And that in my understanding is not allowed. You don't ever have a widow. I've seen one publishing house many years ago, I saw they allowed a widow if it was over half a line long. So I don't have widows, I allow orphans, but my exception is I don't like to have an orphan if it's the first line of an extract. It doesn't actually matter so much here, but if you only indent on one side, which is what I like to do, and then if we had here an orphan, so this can be a bit confusing, right? Is this, like, what is this? Is this a new paragraph? Is this a quote? So orphans are okay. But back to what we were talking about, what that language, I've got to find that language thing now. What is this? So I've seen this also being referred to as an orphan, but it's not. It actually has no official typographic name. David Blattner of InDesign Secrets, he coined the term runt, and I kind of like that term. And the way that I define a runt is and it's quite specific in my view. I've got to find a page where it shows it because this book is full of quotes. Okay, I guess this works, right? So you have a first line indent. So this space here is like the first line indent. Okay, so I'm gonna make it a bit of color here, non-black. Let's do that. Okay, so this horizontal space, we're not really interested in the vertical space. So this horizontal space is the first line indent, which in this paragraph is 15 points. So for me, I would want, if a runt, if you want to call anything, if the last line of text is more than 15 points, okay, which is, oops, dated, didn't mean to do that, then to me it's fine. Now I wouldn't want it to be perfect, but if it's, let's say here, 20 points, 17 points, then it's fine. That is my view. I think, I don't think I would want, so I think here where you've got language, I think it's perfectly okay. So going on, I go to the next paragraph, and again, do hyphen, oh, I solved the problem here by just making better spacing, and I've solved that problem. So I go through by each page and try and fix it in that way. And as you can see, oh, there you go. Let's see if I can make it a bit better. Let's say hyphen last word. No, okay, so that's what it's going to be, and that does work. So then go here, same idea. Just I'm turning a dial now. You can't see. You just see. You don't see what's happening on my desk, right? But what I'm doing here is I'm turning a dial, which again, just to remind you, it's changing this. And if that doesn't do what I need it to do, then I will just do hyphen all. Don't love this. Don't love a double, or always put it in the wrong place. You have to Control Shift hyphen, right? So that's better. We don't really want to have 3 hyphens in a word. It's not that I hate it so much, my clients hate it. So we've got to keep our clients happy. And that's my methodology of, you see, I've improved the spacing here of going through it. So I am using a number of scripts. So the first script that I'm using in order to do this is a script, and again I activate this on my Stream Deck. It's a script that turns on and off H&Js, and then I have, and I'm just going to bring up my Stream Deck UI. That's not the Stream Deck UI. Here's the Stream Deck UI. So I am using a script, which hyphens everything. Another one that does columns, etc., etc. Then on, and actually if I go up one, I have this script turns off the, what I call highlight yellow on and off. It's of course H&Js. And then on my Stream Deck, I actually have a few more Stream Decks, as you can see, doing various different things. And here's a Stream Deck, on the Stream Deck Plus, sorry, not the XL, I have, as I say, this actually has quite a few different things. It's quite a complicated setup, which perhaps I'll do a different video. So I hope people have found this useful. Again, this is my working methodology, and I have found this to be, it's quite time consuming, to be fair, doing this process of like tweaking each thing, but I do feel like you end up with a much better cultivated type area, as Jan Tschichold likes to say. Once I do all the corrections from the client, goes back and forwards, and then of course the final stage that I have is going to be to make sure that every right hand and left hand page ends in the same place. But that's a whole different video, and the way that you solve this very much depends on the book. So the way that I'm going to solve this kind of a book, since we've got lots of quotes and space befores, and there's lots of vertical space, I use a script called vjustifies from ID Extras, but that does require another video. I hope you found this useful, and comments below as usual.